We'll start on time at 1:30. Okay, we are going to speak about the topic of why we say Mizmor L'Todah on Tisha B'Av. The fascinating thing is that this morning, when I davened in the minyan in which I davened, the Shliach Tzibur did not say Mizmor L'Todah. And afterwards, I asked the Rav, was the Shliach Tzibur asked you before not saying Mizmor L'Todah? He said, no, he didn't ask me, but even if he would have asked me, I would have told him not to say it. So obviously, there are minhagim still in places not to say Mizmor L'Todah. If you take a look at, if you have in front of you the screen or the handout, you have the Aruch HaShulchan, it's Siman Nun Aleph Sif Tes, brings down, there's some place in which they say, they say the Mizmor L'Todah on the on Tisha B'Av, some places where they don't. So in fact, the Aruch HaShulchan in Hilchos Tisha B'Av says that not to say Mizmor L'Todah, and the overwhelming majority of poskim say to say Mizmor L'Todah, and the Marei says it's a mistake not to say Mizmor L'Todah because just like other korbanos which we say on Tisha B'Av, the time the Beis Hamikdash existed, the korban Torah would be brought on Tisha B'Av, so therefore we would say Mizmor L'Todah on Tisha B'Av. But from an emotional perspective, leaving alone the halachic perspective, it seems very strange because Mizmor L'Todah is supposed to be said with great simcha. You're supposed to actually sing Mizmor L'Todah during davening. That's what's brought down by Levush and others. So therefore, it's a contradictory to the spirit of the day. Why we say it? Perhaps there's some intrinsic connection between the spirit of the day of Tisha B'Av, at least the spirit of the day as we can discuss now, and the elements of the Chama that makes us say specifically on Tisha B'Av, make for sure Mizmor L'Todah. And we have in the Marei here number 2. This is from the Kisvei Arizal. This is from Rabbi Yisrael Srug, who was the Talmud of the Arizal. He was the Italian Talmud of the Arizal who brought Kabbalah to Italy. He brings down, also says, actually, Prince Chaim is in by Chaim Vital, but he's quoting Rabbi Yisrael Srug. Rabbi Yisrael Srug, Hariel Hashem kol haaretz. It says in the first line of Mizmor L'Todah, Hariel Hashem kol haaretz, Rashi Tevos Halacha. What is that? He says the Rashi Tevos, Hariel, hey, Hashem, Lamed, Kol, Chaf, hey, Haaretz, Rashi Tevos Halacha. Why? Kim Yom Shechara Beis Hamikdash Ein LaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Olama Ela Daled Amos Shel Halacha. So this is a very fascinating idea. So we have to understand what the words Hariel Hashem Kol Haaretz could possibly have to do with halacha. But he says the Rashi Tevos of Hariel Hashem Kol Haaretz halacha, and that is what's important in Mizmor L'Todah, because going down to the next place where I have a bold, if you want to see the intense Kabbalistic passages, you can read the stuff which is not in bold. But I'm going to skip them for our purposes. It's like all the korbanos are canceled. There's a mention by Ikar Abba test Zayin, which is actually the next Marei. The King Nechra Beis Hamikdash Kol Hashleimus Batla. All Shleimus is canceled. You can't reach any perfection after the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Chutz me Arba Amos Shalacha, except for the 4 Amos of Halacha. Kidam Maran Shein B'Tos Olam, that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is always present in those 4 Amos. V'zeh so tzmichus pasuk zel tchilaso shu Mizmor L'Todah. That's the secret of why Mizmor L'Todah is connected to Hariel Hashem Kol Haaretz, because the korban Torah survives in Golos through the Arba Amos Shel Halacha. Those 4 Amos Shel Halacha and the korban Torah are congruent, and that they represent the connection with the Shekhinah even in Golos, and that continues throughout Golos, and that's why Mizmor L'Todah has to be as an integral part of our avodah. And we're going to come to a great detail in a moment, but I think that that's also probably why, as opposed to being in korbanos at the beginning, before Mizmor Shir, before Hodu, if you're having this inspired, that Mizmor L'Todah is put intrinsically into the Psuki de Zimra. Okay, it's not placed with the other. It's a strange place. It's after Hodu, which makes sense, but it's before the other Tehillim, which start with Ashrei. It has its own unique place, which comes obviously to focus on the concept of Todah B'Zman Hazeh. So we mentioned already the Vayikra Rabbah test design. So I'm going to skip now to the next Mekomos, and I wanted to link at this point this idea of Arba Amos Shel Halacha with the idea of Nachem, which we say this afternoon. And in Nachem, there's a very strange line. Ki atah Hashem ba'esh hitzatah u'va'esh atah asid livnosa. We stress that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed by fire, and Beit HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt by fire. Why? But obviously, there's a pashut shot. But what does it mean ba'omek hadvarim, in the depth? So the Magid Meishorim, if this is the same Magid Meishorim, I think it's the Beis Yosef's sefer, on which he wrote down things he heard from the Magid, which is given to him from Shamayim to teach him. He writes, "V'hadamru Chazal, afal pi she'esh yordam min hashamayim, she'esh yordam min hashamayim." Even though a fire comes down from heaven, mitzvah l'havi min ha'hedyot. It's a mitzvah to bring also fire from the source down here below. It's talking about the Beis Hamikdash, actually the Mishkan, and the first Beis Hamikdash, that there was fire which came down from Shamayim to ignite the fire on the altar. So, but nevertheless, it's a mitzvah to bring Aish from our natural fire from us down below, not to rely on the fire from heaven. So the Magid says, even though a flow comes down from on high, you have to connect through mitzvahs. This kasha esha pikudaya, to connect the fire mitzvahs, but isha de'ela, with the fire on high. And with these, the worlds are connected. The ikar hakishura, it's true that the primary way of accomplishing this connection, I did the kurbanayim, by korbanos. The esha is kasher be'esha. The fire of the korbanos links to the fire of the shamayim, the flow which comes out from heaven. Now, that's even more than the korbanos is Torres. The word Torres in Aramaic means kesher, connection. And that's why we don't say Pita Maktoris on Tisha B'Av, to symbolize the weakness in the connection on this day. It's not called the severance, chas v'sholom, but the weakness. Now, let's give you the next place where it's bold. But now that there are no korbanos, the arba amos shel halacha are what give us this capacity to connect eish ve'eish. The hevel pumayu, the steam, the hanu the aski halacha, which comes out of the mouth of those who are running halacha, habi dugmas esha. We call it rischa d'oraisa, right? That's not just actually rischa d'oraisa is also the name of a podcast which I'm involved with, but it's all in this case. I mean that it's the fire of Torah. That the dugmas esha. It's like fire miskasher esha de'leila, and it connects to the kesher on high, right? That's a fire on high. And with these, the worlds are connected. Shalom is just the end of the passage. But what is it saying here? It's saying that the Eish Yitzatah, the fire destroyed it because it wasn't the proper fire which was supposed to exist. The korbanos at the time did not reflect a level of avodas Hashem, which they're supposed to reflect, and therefore the Beis Hamikdash is just destroyed. But Eish Atah Asid leave no saw. In the same, but with fire going to eventually rebuild it, it means that when our fire down here below, when our rischa d'oraisa, our arousal and our islavus, our flame in our arba amos shel halacha is realized, that's when it can expand again to become the connection which we want to have, which will rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. Then we haven't yet defined this completely, the arba amos shel halacha. I'm just going to going into perhaps the next piece where we get more into it. And this from the Ishbitzer from a couple of weeks ago, 5. He says, this is about the how the Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven made Chutz La'aretz into Eretz Yisrael. The Ishbitzer says, Shini Adam Yakish Mekomo Ba'arba Amos Shel Halacha. If a person sanctifies his place, wherever he lives, with the four, as being the 4 Amos Shel Halacha, Chal Kedushas Eretz Yisrael Ze'amokom. The Kedusha Eretz Yisrael devolves on this place. Now, it doesn't mean literally you don't take Trumas and Maisras off the Daled Amos in which you're sitting just because you're keeping halacha, but it means that there is, he's going to explain in a moment, there's a unique connection. And this, I think, is linked, although he doesn't bring it down here, I'm a bit surprised, to the Baal Shem Tov's idea, B'makom shemach shavto shel adam, sham hu kol ha'adam. In a place where a person's thoughts are, that's where the totality of a person is. Sham hu kol ha'adam. And now going to the next place, says both. Any place that a person sanctifies for the name of God, who kadosh b'kedushas Eretz Yisrael. This is kadosh with kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Shesham yishkon Hashem yisbarach b'kfiyus. If your place, your makom, is a Daled Amos Shel Halacha, Hashem will reside there in perpetuity. V'udarei shel sal tamid, and He's always looking to see what's going on there. Ohev Hashem Sharim HaMitziyonim B'Aloha. Kodesh Baruch Hu loves the gates which are excel or are marked by halacha. V'hainu dam Rabbi Chia bar Ami mishmei de'ula miyom shechara beis hamikdash ein laKodesh Baruch Hu b'olamo el arba amos shel halacha b'levad. From that time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu only has the 4 amos of halacha. Now, we have to return now to the other question, though, which is, okay, we now understand that Arba Amos Halacha transcends the Churban Habayis and represents a place for Shekhinah in this world. But why is it represented, as we saw above, the name of Yisrael Sug, by the words Hariu L'Hashem Kol Haaretz? Hariu L'Hashem Kol Haaretz, meaning Rashi Tevos, Halacha, Hariu Hey, Hashem Lamed, Kol Chaf, Haaretz Hey. Why those words? So the Shem Mishmuel in Parshas Yisro says in the next Marei, this K'moshe Amru Zal She'en Achana Zu, the preparation in order to properly accomplish Shabbos is She'en Achana Zu Aydei Iraloch Levad. Actually, it's in order to accomplish general tikkun, not just Shabbos, but he links it to Shabbos, and it's a fascinating link which I never would have made in a million years. K'moshe Amru Zal. In the old days, they didn't have alarms. They used to have Kiyah Shofar in order to let people know that Shabbos begins. And the language of the Gemara is that we come to Shabbos begins as the last Trua ends. Shovsim mitoch Marei. So the person in charge makes a Trua, and that's the final sign, and Shabbos begins. So the Shovsim mitoch Marei says, he brings out Moshe Fokus Avi Adoni, etc. The Avnei Nezer, the Shem Shmuel's father, said Trua hi Lola. Trua is to mourn. It's not to mourn, to cry out. The person should be bitter in his soul. How is he coming to be Makabel Shabbos? Right? He has to say to himself, is this the way I can come into Kabbalah Shabbos? Have I prepared properly? Is everything the way it's supposed to be? By having this momentary bitterness, when Shabbos comes in, all the harsh forces go away. Because of Eish Lefonov Teilech, Eish, the Eish of in our context, the fire of Torah, goes in front of you, and engulfs all your enemies around you. It's a form of Mechias Amalek to have this arousal, even a tinge of bitterness, in order to make sure that my preparations are proper. And the Tzedek HaKohen says that Mechias Amalek always precedes Hashras HaShechina, bringing down a building of a base on Mikdash, or he says, it says even if you see a new shul built, there must have been a somewhat of a destruction by Amalek in that place. So, in order to come into any kedusha, such as Shabbos, one comes first to Trua. One has to have first an aspect of Trua in one's life. And the Bnei Yisrael takes this further. The Bnei Yisrael says, it's a pasuk in Tehillim Peites. It says, Ashrehu am yodei Trua, Hashem b'or panecha yihalechu. Right? We say this before right after the shofar from Rosh Hashanah. Praises the nation who knows Trua, and they go in the light, in your light of your countenance. So I bolded only a little bit, but it's really a fascinating piece, this piece, and a little bit Kabbalistic in the places where it's not bold. That's why I didn't bold them. But he says, and it's worth seeing, but I'm going to go on to the next black part. He yesh the first Ivraim. He wants to explain the Gemara and Chulin of the Chazal, which says that it's the previous line that they want. Am Yisrael knows how to, so to speak, appease God with the Trua. He says the Datiyish first frame Yodim Mamshichim Hadas Idea Trua is Oru Samochim. We arouse that Trua by arousing our minds. These orus. Trua is these orus. It's an arousal. It's something which is supposed to provoke a person to thought, to think about his what he's doing, what he has done, and how to proceed. A chesed nefesh. So yodim mamshich madas idea true b'soros hamochin v'zeh yodim l'ratzos, and that's how they know to come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu ratzon. In other words, ke'amochim nikram ratzon. Where do you have your will? Your will is in your mind, in your head. Understand that your will is not just the emotion. Emotions are in the heart, symbolically at least, but will is in the mind. It has to have an aspect of intellectual decision to know what you're going to do. So, actually, to understand what you're supposed to do and then put it into practice. So, therefore, you need his oru samochin in order to be able to accomplish ratzon. Like they meturatzim the kushos, and in the part which I left out, and in bold, he talks about the how you learn halacha. And when you learn halacha, you come first from a place of lack of clarity to a place of clarity. And the way you come to clarity, and the way you metaret kushios, is by arousing your mind. And then you come to that connection of illumination through halacha. So the process of learning halacha, he says, is a process of trua, is a process of arousing one's mind. So there are two aspects of real Hashem Kol Haaretz. One aspect of real Hashem Kol Haaretz is that it is sometimes a person has to look at himself with even a tinge of bitterness in order to try and understand whether what they're doing is right or wrong. And another thing is it's oru samochin, to figure out which direction to go, which also works in trying to figure out halacha. And I think all this is brought together in a beautiful way by Rabbi Shamshon Folhirsch in his commentary on this topic. He says that I'm sorry, it's a bit unclear. The copy I was using to make a scan was bound and couldn't really get the rebound. Couldn't get to the middle part. But he said in the first pasuk he says that the total, what total represents, on the top of the second column he says it can either be an acknowledgement of a debt of gratitude or admission of guilt. In this instance, it's employing the first sense, and that's why it brings down the medrash which you said before. For would that be only under such conditions that the acts would attain the true significance when the person has a cognition of their thankfulness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ever the psalm of Thanksgiving. Giving Thanksgiving is put here as a finale. Siman Kuf is not just a coincidence. It's a finale to preceding Psalms, which talk about the advent of a new era on earth. So that is the that pasuk is important, but the next pasuk is the most important pasuk. And I'm trying to see if where my copy is so I can get the. I don't see it. I was going to see if I can read the words which are cut off, but I don't see the copy for which I made the scan. So just use this. But this is an amazing passage. Amazing. I was blown away when I saw it. Ivdas Hashem is simcha, right? This is the pasuk of Sermon Kodesh Baruch Hu, simcha bo lefana bir nana. It is regrettable that the concept of divine service is understood to consist primarily of the ritual of prayer and sacrifice in the temple and the synagogue. This is not in accordance with the Jewish idea of avodas Hashem. The true service of the Lord, real avodas Hashem, is primarily and most truly performed in the process of day-to-day living. To serve God means to devote all one's energy, all means and talent at one's disposal, and every moment of one's life to execution of God's will. And he whose entire life is devoted to the service of the Lord in the Spirit is called Eved Hashem. That's the Arba Amos Shel Halacha. Arba Amos Shel Halacha don't stay in one place. They go with the Eved Hashem wherever he goes. It's reflected in Halacha. It said, Dalit Amos Shel Adam, Umar Bamatia says, Dalit Amos Shel Adam, Konim Lo B'chol Makom. The 4 amos of a person is a certain kinyan, a way of acquiring objects called kinyan dalit amos, and it goes with the person wherever he goes. Wherever you go, your dalit amos is kind of for you. Wherever you go, you have to take your dalit amos shel halacha with you. Wherever you go, you have to be meiriah, you have to be misoirer to bring Hashem kol haaretz, bring everything to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Prayer and the offering of sacrifice are called divine service only because through them we prepare and consecrate ourselves anew each time for what is the actual service of the Lord. In other words, yes, we call tefillah avodas Hashem, avodah shebelev. We call certainly avodah in the base of mikdash called avodah, but that is only as a borrowed term. The main term for an Eved Hashem is somebody who takes his dar amos shalocha wherever he goes. They are symbolic acts. It's stated in Psalm 55. Of course, they brisi alei zebach, to make the covenant of Hashem on a korban because it represents a tangible symbol. In Psalm, we read of the earnestness of attitude and resolve with which the nation shall one day enter in the covenant of God and thus come into his presence. Here in the first verse of Psalm 100, this solemnity is recaptured in the call to the world to render homage to the Lord with trua. In other words, a person has to use the trua specifically in order to come to this level. At the same time, everyone kind is called, and trua is solemn, it's severe. But at the same time, however, mankind is called upon to dedicate himself to a life of solemn divine service with rejoicing and to complete with joy. A lot of the Mefarshim talk about on this pasuk, the second pasuk, Hashem b'simcha, how an Eved can be b'simcha. It seems to be some people, I don't see it, but to some Mefarshim it seems to be a contradiction. An Eved, how can a slave be happy? So of course there are many answers given, but the simple answer is that what the Tana Velio says, Ani yoresi mitoch simchasi v'samachti mitoch yirasi. I come to Yira out of my simcha to simcha out of a Yira. When one is devoted to a cause which is divine, profound, and transcendent, of course it should cause that person simcha. So as he says this, that at the same time, however, mankind is called upon to dedicate itself to life of silent service with rejoicing complete with joy. For it is such a life and such a life only that can give us true simcha, feeling of steady and constant spiritual and moral growth. The reason why growth is in quotation marks is because, according to the Hirschian way of looking at words, samach, simcha, is related to samach, to grow. Semach is a flower or a plant, so tzemach and samach are related. Simcha comes from personal growth, Personal growth comes from simcha, which is a very profound idea. There's growth of all that is truly human within us, a blissful joy of life that is not subject to change in any manner by the outward circumstances which life may bring. In other words, a person is in a state of churban. A person should still be able to attain inner happiness. I will come to that in a minute. The servant God with all lives should not be to us a burden to be born because of fear. We are summoned to serve the Lord with gladness and to serve Him outside the confines of the temple. Whereas only if we thus are something in our everyday lives, both the mood of joy will remain in our hearts as a result and come to us into the house of the Lord. In other words, you want to come back to the base on Mikdash, that's fine. That's what we all want to do. But in order to that, we have to maintain the Arba Amos Shel Halacha, and specifically with the Trua. And going to the next passage, Du ki Hashem Elokim hu asanu v'lo anachnu amo v'tzom mariso. Du ki Hashem Elokim means, as we all know, Elokim is midas sadin, the harshness of this world without the revelation. Hashem is the midas harachamim. It's the same. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the midas hadin. Hashem hu Elokim, and this the pinnacle of our Yom Kippur davening at the last moments of the Elah. This is what we say 7 times. Hashem hu Elokim, God is the Lord, and that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu to us is the one who is behind everything. No matter what it is, we make a bracha on it. And I added into the Mekomos in the chat, and I said as a Rambam, which I heard actually this morning when I was listening to Rabbi Leff's keynote. And the Rambam says a fascinating thing. He says that you can look at it if you want, but I'm going to say it outside. Avelim have nachas from their avelus, just like a person has simcha, nachas from his simcha in simcha. What does that mean? He says even the idea, the customs of avelus, which bring out the mourning from the mourner, are made to give the mourner a form of nachas ruach, to the same extent that the forms of expression of simcha give nachas to the person who expresses the simcha. So blew me away, that idea. It was amazing. But it's true. When we do avelus, our avelus is not for the part, from a perspective of avelus, the way Chazal instituted, it's not in order to sit in desolation, but rather to express our feelings, and expressing feelings brings nachas, just whether it's avelus or simcha. And today, our avelus also has to give us nachas. What nachas does it give us to express our avelus? The rededication to this idea of Hariu Hashem Kol Haaretz, knowing Ki Hashem Elokim, Hu Asanu V'lo Anachnu. We know there's a kriu ksiv in this pasuk. The way it's written, it's very strange because it sounds the same. The way it's written is below and not, and the way it's read is below and to him. And Rosh says here, and many Farshim say that we're like it says in B'Keytem, you're here. We weren't put here because you necessarily wanted to be here. At least that's what you recall. So, but Kodesh Baruch Hu put us here for a mission, for a purpose. Rabbi Lev put it beautifully. He said, we're all here as part of the play, the grand play. And we all come on stage at the time when we're supposed to come on stage. No, he said that, I should say. We all come on stage at the time we come on stage to play our part. We're on the stage for our part, the part which we have to play, and we're given prompts. The prompts we're given are Torah mitzvos, and Kodesh Baruch Hu obviously gives us also events in life which are prompts. But we have to remember that below anachnu, our job when we're on stage was not is order to play the part that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us, and we're to Him, and but we have to arouse ourselves on that basis. So the this pasuk, Du ki Hashem Elokim hu asanu v'lo anachnu amo v'tzom mariso, is telling us the explanation of how you can possibly have no matter what your situation, connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and focused on your isorus and your arba mashal Allah. Du ki Hashem hu Elokim. God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the same Havaya, which is Rachamim, and the same Havaya, which is Din. And this Arba, so therefore we understand the Arba Halacha, which we have to accomplish, is the orus, the arousal, through reconsidering what we do to bring about the Eish with which Atah Sid Livnosa. Now there's I want to go a little bit lighter for the next few minutes which we have left, which are to Chassidish Drush in the first pasuk, but it goes along with what we're saying. Mizmor L'Todah, this part over here, in Perikot Pascal. Harotze l'zamer l'hodos l'Hashem. Somebody wants to sing and praise the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Haril Hashem kol haaretz. What does it mean? Haril Hashem kol haaretz. Tzarech lishbor kol ha'artzius shelo. You have to break all your mundane existence. You have to make your entire existence profound, elevated. Eish avur Hashem yisbarach. So the way he's reading the pasuk is, it's not so far from the pshat, even though it's not the pshat. Haril Hashem kol haaretz means break all that which is keeping you down on the ground, keeping you mundane, and not allowing you to transcend and be the machshavto shel adam in kedushas Yerushalayim. And that Rav Zevin has one of my favorite stories. He has here a similar idea from Eicha. It says in Eicha, Hishlich mishamayim eretz. So over here, Hishlich mishamayim eretz tiferes Yisrael. So it literally means HaKadosh Baruch Hu cast down from heaven to earth the glory of Israel. Chassid echad mikrov shabal Rebbe Chabal Chidush Harim. A chassid of the Chidush Harim Shu Hayad Dar Bevarsha, when he lived in Warsaw, Bala Kabel Manu Birchas Pein and Siyasal Chutzlaretz. He came to get a bracha for his journey to Chutzlaretz, Lemdinas Prussia to Prussia, Leragli Mischar for his trade. Ushas Apeder Marlo Rebbe, when he was leaving, the Rebbe said, Shamatish Bashkaz Yeshlam Rabbanim, Hamchunim Rabbiners. The rabbis were called Rabbiners. Marei Hashem. And they're God-fearing. I want to know if a German rabbi, a rabbiner, can actually be a racial. He went on his way. So he was about to go home. Went to shul. He saw a rabbi who was standing and darshan in public. It was Rosh Chodesh Rav Shamash Rav Amar. The way he touched the pasuk. How did the Jews cast down their divinity, their loftiness, their heavenliness? Over Mekomos Zed, and said this asu kol tifartam, they made their entire glory me'artzius, material glory. He went to make it back to the Chidush Harim. The Rebbe said, "No, Marei is Hashem bepricing. Why is he in pressure?" I told him what he heard from that Rebbe, from that rabbiner. Sorry, the tzad was very moved. He walked back and forth in his room, and he said, "How you talking, Sharabi Ashkenaz? Is it possible that a German rabbi could say such a pshat in the pasuk? This is something which the Talmidim of the Rebbe Parshishcha, like the Kotzker, would have, and the Ishbitzer would have said, "V'lo Rabbi Ashkenazi, how can a German rabbi have said such a profound thought?" Ein zos elishiesh lo osa rab shoresh shel kedusha mitzadikei Poland. It must be that rabbi has a source of kedusha which comes from the tzadikim of Poland. So, whether we can grant the German rabbis any profound ideas or not, but the idea I expressed is amazingly profound, which is that on Tisha B'Av, we have to understand that the tiferes of a Jew is the shmeimiyut, his heavenliness, his connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the sense to which he's an Eved Hashem, like Sham Shavuot said, no matter where he is, his Galadam Amos Shalacha takes him everywhere. He goes with him wherever he goes. And not artzius. Our tiferes should never be our artzius. It should never be our mundane existence in this world. In this way, even a person who's in Golus, and even a person who's in Chutzlaretz, takes the Kedushas Eretz Yisrael wherever they go. Haril Hashem kol haaretz. No matter where you find yourself. make those dollar amos shel halacha. And that I can't do the rest of Mizmor L'Todah because I'm about to run out of time. But with that idea, we can give the total HaKadosh Baruch Hu, both to be in the sense of vidui, acknowledging our shortcomings, which is bring us to the hisorus, the arousal to fix them, and the sense of Todah, always thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the opportunity to represent him wherever we find ourselves. Arba Amos Shalacha means wherever a Jew goes, they are representing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Arba Amos Shalacha means wherever a Jew goes and goes with the intent to follow the halacha real Hashem kol haaretz, there he represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there he has to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the unique opportunity to be with him and represent him wherever we go. And we shall be zoicha to be mischazek in that avodas Hashem, and that way be zoicha to the Esha to Asiv Livnosa, there's a mikdash being rebuilt, which bring a true carbon toida in here. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Ravi.